Most people think Marcus Aurelius woke up in silk robes, surrounded by servants, with inspiration effortlessly pouring into his mind. But the truth is far less romantic and far more powerful. His mornings were not built on luxury, comfort, or motivation. They were built on resistance, discomfort, and deliberate mental training. And that's exactly why his routine still matters today. Because his mornings were designed for one purpose only, to prepare his mind for reality, not fantasy. He didn't wake up and chase inspiration. He woke up and faced reluctance. He openly admitted how hard it was to get out of bed, not because he was lazy, but because the human mind naturally avoids effort. Instead of pretending that resistance wouldn't appear, he expected it. The moment he opened his eyes, his first task was not productivity, but confrontation. Confrontation with his own desire to stay comfortable. He would remind himself that he was waking up to do the work of a human being, not to seek warmth under blankets. This wasn't about punishment, it was about identity. He didn't ask, "What do I feel like doing today?" He asked, "What was I made to do?" This alone is where most people lose their mornings. They wait for their mood to decide their actions. Marcus Aurelius reversed that. He let duty decide first, and emotion followed later. He understood that comfort in the morning creates weakness throughout the day, but resistance early creates strength that lasts. The moment he stood up, he had already won his first internal battle. But the most important part of his morning routine didn't happen with his body. It happened with his mind. Before engaging with people, politics, war, or chaos, he would prepare himself for human nature. He would remind himself that today he would meet difficult people, ungrateful people, arrogant people, dishonest people, and selfish people. Not out of bitterness, but out of realism. Because when you expect goodness from everyone, you're constantly disappointed. But when you expect flaws, you stop being shocked by them. This single practice made him nearly unoffendable. Instead of reacting with anger when someone behaved badly, he had already accounted for it. Their behavior no longer felt personal. It felt predictable. This is something most people never train. They step into the day emotionally exposed, then wonder why everything affects them so deeply. After preparing for others, he prepared for loss. Not in fear, but in awareness. He reminded himself that the things he enjoyed could disappear. His health could fade. His reputation could be attacked. His power could be stripped. And because he did this mentally before the world could do it physically, he stayed calm when change actually arrived. This wasn't pessimism. This was psychological insurance. When you mentally accept impermanence, life loses its power to shock you. Then came reflection. Not long, not dramatic, just honest. He would examine his own character before the world got a chance to. He checked whether he was becoming arrogant, impatient, bitter, lazy, or prideful. He didn't do this to shame himself. He did it to correct himself early, before flaws turned into habits. Most people wait until life punishes them for their weaknesses. He confronted his weaknesses before life could exaggerate them. This is something modern mornings completely lack. People check notifications before they check their own character. They scroll before they reflect. They absorb opinions before clarifying their own. By the time their day begins, their mind is already crowded with noise that didn't need permission to enter. Marcus Aurelius protected his mental privacy. The first voice he listened to each morning was his own reason. He didn't outsource his mindset to the world. He also trained his mind in humility before interacting with others. He reminded himself that no matter his power, no matter his status, he was still a human being among other human beings. He ate like them, he slept like them, he suffered like them, he would die like them. This prevented superiority from poisoning his leadership. It also prevented entitlement from corrupting his discipline. There was also a quiet acceptance in the way he faced the day. Not optimism, not negativity, acceptance. He knew that events would unfold beyond his control. Some plans would fail. Some efforts would go unnoticed. Some sacrifices would look meaningless from the outside. And yet he went forward anyway. Not because the outcome was guaranteed, but because the action itself was aligned with his values. This is the foundation of Stoic mornings. You don't wake up demanding the day to reward you. You wake up deciding who you will be regardless of what the day brings. Physical movement wasn't separated from mental discipline. The body was treated as part of the mind's training. Early rising, cold, hunger, fatigue. He didn't see these as enemies to comfort, but teachers of endurance. Comfort weakens attention. Hardship sharpens it. When the body is trained to tolerate discomfort, the mind follows. After this internal alignment, only then did he step into the external world. And by that point, most of the damage the day could do had already been neutralized before it began. Insults lost their sting. Delays lost their power. Disrespect lost its control. He didn't walk into the day hoping to survive it. He walked in already prepared for it. One of the most misunderstood parts of his routine is that it wasn't rigid. It wasn't a checklist. It was a mindset he carried into consciousness each morning. Some days were heavier, some days were lighter, but the orientation was always the same. Prepare the mind before offering it to the world. Modern mornings do the opposite. We offer our minds to the world instantly. News, conflict, opinions, outrage, comparison, anxiety, all before we choose who we're going to be that day. By the time we're fully awake, our emotional state has already been influenced by forces we didn't select. Marcus Aurelius used the morning as a buffer between himself and chaos, a space where he could choose his posture before being pushed. He also reminded himself that today could be his last, not in dread, but in clarity. If this is the last time he wakes up, then how should he act? With bitterness? With hesitation? With delay? Or with intention? This reminder stripped away triviality. Petty arguments lost importance. Ego battles faded. What remained was action guided by principle. This is why his routine was so powerful. It wasn't about productivity. It was about orientation. It didn't chase efficiency. It built stability. It didn't aim for motivation. It built reliability. And that's why his influence still exists centuries later. You don't need his position to use his routine. You don't need his authority to practice his discipline. What you need is the willingness to face resistance when comfort whispers for you to stay asleep, to face reality before distraction softens it, to face yourself before the world reshapes you. If you adopt even the foundation of his mornings, your life begins to change in subtle but permanent ways. You stop being surprised by stress. You stop being controlled by inconvenience. You stop being defeated by discomfort. You stop waiting for ideal conditions to act. Instead, you wake up and act because it is your nature to do so. His mornings were not about becoming extraordinary. They were about refusing to become weak. And in that refusal, greatness followed naturally. If you wake up tomorrow and the first thing you feel is resistance, know this: you're standing exactly where strength is built. And if you choose to stand up anyway, you're already practicing the same principle that carried a Roman emperor through war, betrayal, loss, and responsibility without breaking. That is the real routine. Not coffee, not affirmations, not productivity hacks, but the daily choice to meet reality with clarity, discipline, and quiet control. And that choice begins the moment you wake up.